selling cost. We have already talked about what is selling cost. The cost of promoting the product, which includes advertisement and other things adopted by the firm to promote its product. Why there is no selling cost? Because there is no use of doing any advertisement. As any buyer who wants to buy the commodity has to come to me because I am the single seller, right? No need of doing any advertisement. So now after we have understood two extreme markets, one is perfect competition and the other one is monopoly. Right? Now see, practically if you talk about both these markets, like I told you that perfect competition is almost you cannot find it, impractical, right? Monopoly also there is very less chances that you buy a commodity from the monopoly. Like you can think whatever things you are having right now with you, have you bought them from perfect or monopoly? You haven't bought them from any one of them, right? The most common form of market is the monopolistic market. Okay, simple, most common market means anything that you have bought right now, you are possessing it, that all have come from the monopolistic market. The characteristic of this market structure are that here there are many sellers selling closely related, means close substitutes. Right? They are not alike in all respects, but they can satisfy the same want. Like the pens which you are using, right? One pen may belong to some other company, the other one to some other company, and they are different from one another. But they are close substitutes, they can satisfy the same human want. With some degree of control over price. Okay, so when you have to define this market structure, you will define it as it is a market structure where there are many sellers selling closely related but unidentical products, or you can simply write close substitutes of one another with some degree of control over the price. Example: market for cars, market for mobile phones, mobile for pens, books, and many commodities. Most of the commodities, your clothes, everything, shoes, you have bought from the monopolistic market where many sellers are available, many companies are available, many firms are available. They sell the similar product but they are different from one another and they have some degree of control over the price, right? Now we will study the features of the monopolistic competition, and it is actually easiest one to understand because every day you face this market. Okay, whenever you go to the market, most of the time 99% you are visiting the monopolistic form of market. The first feature is many sellers and many buyers. Okay, there are a lot of sellers of the commodity and there are a lot of buyers for the commodity in the market. But as such, it doesn't make any implication here, right? Because it doesn't affect the market in any way. So it doesn't have any implication. Then second feature is product differentiation. The most important feature of this market is product differentiation. Product differentiation means trying to prove them different, or you can simply say the products are differentiated or they are different. We'll talk about it how the differentiation can be real or artificial. So whenever you talk about this market, this characteristic is present which gives the main base to the market. The most important characteristic is product differentiation. Like suppose you talk about the cars. Okay, here all the firms, they are trying to prove that their car is better than the other car, and you can simply see they look different, their features may be different, right? So this is known as product differentiation. Your pens, everything. Then this product differentiation gives some degree of control to the seller. The implication is that it gives some degree of control over price. See how it gives some degree of control over price. Suppose we are talking about the market of cars. Talk about Mercedes. It can fix very high price for its cars, right? Why it has been able to do it? Because it has made its brand different in the market. Okay, it has proved that the product is different, and maybe the features which it is giving you, they are also different from the feature provided by the other companies. So there is a degree of control if the firm is able to prove that its product is better than the product of other firms. Okay, you have to remember the implication. It is very important implication and the most important feature of this particular market. Then we have to understand that this differentiation can be of two types. Okay, there could be real differentiation or there could be artificial differentiation. For example, you buy a mobile phone of company A for rupees 2000 and company B of rupees 20,000. Okay, there are real differences between their features, right? You will find a lot of things which this mobile phone can do and this one cannot do, right? Artificial, you buy mobile phone of 2000 from company A and mobile phone of 2000 from company B. So whatever the differences are, they would be just created. Okay, not real, not technical differentiation. Features and the capabilities, abilities would be the same, or you can say the technology would be the same. So it is easy to find out whether it is a real differentiation or whether it is a artificial differentiation. If you have to define, real differentiation is when the products are really different from one another and their characteristics vary, while artificial is when it is only created. It is only made to, you are only made to feel that the product is different. And then next feature is product differentiation, huge selling cost. Selling cost, we have talked about selling cost, what it is, the cost of promoting, the cost of advertising the product. Okay, like whatever advertisements you see in the television, they all are from the monopolistic market. If you realize, if you try to just recall the advertisements, you will realize that they all belong to the monopolistic form of market, and here huge expenditure is done on the selling cost. And what is the objective of this huge expenditure? That is to prove that the product is differentiated. Okay, in the present scenario, you can take the example of Patanjali. It is spending huge amount of money on its advertisements. Like if you go through the various records, you will find that it has spent more than the other bigger firms like even Hyundai or any other big firm on its advertisements. And you know what is the objective? Trying to prove its product different from the other products. So again, a very important characteristic of the monopolistic competition, huge selling cost. Then next feature is free entry and exit. Means any firm can enter the market at any point of time and any firm can leave the market at any point of time. This we have also done in the perfect competition. But remember, in perfect competition, this had a implication that there will be only normal profit in the long run, but it is not here in monopolistic market. Just understand why it is not there, because in the perfect competition all the firms are supplying the homogeneous product, this product which is identical in all respects. But under the monopolistic market, the firms are supplying differentiated products. The products are not absolutely identical, right? Like if any one of you watching this particular video may watch some other video with the same topic, you may like that one more or maybe this one more, right? So products are different, and once the consumer starts loving your product or starts feeling happy about your product, liking your product, then you can even earn the supernormal profit. Maybe n number of firms enter that market, right? So this is the important question from the exam's point of view also, that the free entry and exit implies normal profit in the perfect competition but not in the monopolistic competition. So here the reason is differentiated product, right? You have to remember it. Then the next important feature is a downward sloping AR and MR. We already did it in the monopoly form of market. What does this mean? That sales can be increased only by reducing the price. And vice versa, if you increase the price, then the sales will decrease, right? Okay, this is the diagram similar to monopoly. Downward sloping MR and AR means more lesser the price, more will be the sales. But again we have to understand that here there is certain difference between the downward sloping AR of monopoly and between the downward sloping AR and MR of monopolistic market. See, under the monopoly, if you talk about monopoly, then the demand is less elastic, or you can say that the MR and AR are more steep, right? And under monopolistic, there is more elasticity, or you can say that MR and AR are less steep. Remember, we have already done the relation between the elasticity of demand and steepness of the curve. Steeper the curve, less is the elasticity, and flatter the curve, more is the elasticity. If you are not able to recall it, just see perfectly. Just to recall that this is the perfectly elastic demand curve and this is perfectly inelastic, right? So more steep the curve, lesser is the elasticity. If I draw it, you can understand it better when I will draw it side by side. Say monopoly and monopolistic. Okay, same is shown on both the curves, on both the axes. Here you can observe that this curve is more steep. Okay, difficult to climb on this curve, but this curve is little flatter. That's why the question can also be framed like this, that why is the MR or AR curve of the monopolistic less steep than monopoly, or other way around, why monopolies AR and MR are more steeper than the monopolistics, or why is the demand more elastic under monopolistic as compared to monopoly. What this elastic demand means, we have to understand that. We already know that elasticity means that how much the demand can respond to the change in price. Same is the meaning here, that if the both say monopoly and monopolist change their, say reduce their price by 10%, then maybe the demand in monopoly rises by say only 5%, while in monopolistic his sale may rise by 20%. Why is this happening? First of all, we have to understand the meaning. We have almost understood what it means, that why, what flatter curve and what steeper curve imply, or what more elasticity and less elasticity imply. Now we have to understand why this happens. See, this simply happens because under the monopolistic firm, you have many sellers. right? While here you have only a single seller. It means that if it is a monopoly market, say firm A is selling the commodity and say the buyers are 1000, and in if it is a monopoly market, monopolistic market, then say firm A, B, C, D, E, or say A belongs to this and F. These many firms are selling the commodity. Now suppose one firm reduces the price. So already the buyers of that commodity are present who are buying from the other firms, and they will come and start buying the product from this particular firm. But under this market, the buyers who are buying the product are buying from the single seller. So he has to simply create new demand, he has to create new consumers. But here consumers are already present. So that's why response of the monopolistic competition to the changes in price would be more. While in case of monopoly it would be less. And same for price rise. If the price rises, here the consumers have many options. They can stop buying from him and go to some other seller. But here they still have to buy from the single seller. So this concept can be asked in form of a question and answer, where you need to mention that what is the meaning of this and why it happens, right? And diagrammatically also the difference can be depicted. Okay, then after understanding the feature of monopolistic market and the monopolistic markets, its implications, we have to move on to the fourth market structure, that is oligopoly. Again, oligopoly is a special type of market arrangement, a special sort of market structure where we have few dominant firms. With high degree of interdependence. Okay, the market structure lies, or the basis lies behind these two words, that there are few dominant sellers and they are highly interdependent on one another. Few means that it is neither a single seller, not a many sellers. Maybe say 5 or 6 sellers. You can count them on your fingertips. And a high degree of, and dominant means that they are very powerful. Influential firms, not small firms. Like take an example, suppose there are 5 firms in a market. So on an average, each firm is occupying 20% of the market, and it is a huge market structure. You can just imagine that if I am able to teach say 1% students of India, it will be a huge number, right? So 20% is a much larger number. If a firm is occupying 20% of a market, it means it is a very big firm, not a small firm. And high degree of interdependence. This we can simply understand because the firms are powerful, so they never want to have any war among themselves, or they never want to directly compete with one another. For example, if there are two powerful people, two dons in a city, okay, they would never like to fight with one another. So they basically go on this interdependence, live happily, right? Make an agreement and live happily. You also rule the market and we also rule the market, and do not allow any other firm to enter, so that we can remain as few firms and enjoy the profit of the market. When you are defining it, you will define it as a market structure where there are few dominant firms with high degree of interdependence regarding the price and output policy. This you have to mention, the interdependences regarding the price and output policy. Better you can understand with the help of the example of the petroleum in India. Petroleum companies. Okay, say you have Hindustan Petroleum, you have Bharat Petroleum, Indian Oil, SR, okay, maybe one or two more, right? Which are having the petrol pumps in all over the country. So this type of market structure is a oligopoly. Like if you go to any petrol pump in Uttarakhand, you will find the petrol rate same. Okay, the price and output has been decided by the firms. So we'll move on to the features of oligopoly. Actually, it's a simple market to understand. The first feature is few dominant firms. The number of firms is small and the firms individually they are very large, very influential. So the implication is that they are dependent on one another regarding the price and output policy. Okay, interdependence regarding the price and output policy. Then second feature is high degree of interdependence. Actually, it is the implication of the first feature, and individually also it can be called as a feature of this market, because a very important characteristic of this market. So they mutually decide the price and output. Like for example, you can understand earlier we used to have the cable connections. So maybe a cable operator is giving a connection in particular area, and another cable operator also starts the business in the same area and gives a connection at a lower price. So this sort of problem was being faced by those people. So what they decided is they divided the whole city into areas. One area given to one particular operator, another area given to the other operator. So they had various advantages from this. Like I will not have to put a new line for giving one connection in a particular colony where I do not have other connections. So this again helps the oligopolist. It helps all the firms. And secondly is that if you can also relate to it to one more implication, that there is no price war. Means the firms do not compete with one another with the price. We will also study price war in detail, what it is, because it is another important feature of the market. Then third is indeterminate demand curve. It means that the individual firm's demand curve cannot be traced. See, this is again an important feature to understand, that individually you cannot tell that how much demand has been created by one firm. We can understand it in a better way with the help of an example. When I study the demand of petrol in India, I study it as the demand of petrol in India, not as the demand for the HP petrol or the Indian Oil petrol, right? So, as the industry I can calculate how much demand is there, but individually I cannot calculate. Suppose a person needs petrol in his vehicle. Suppose you are driving on a highway, you need petrol, require petrol in your vehicle, then you will not mind whether it is a HP petroleum or Indian Oil petroleum. You will not have choices, right? So here that's why we say that individually we cannot find out that how much one firm has been able to sell or how much demand has been created by one firm. It is always for the whole industry. So you can write it as indeterminate demand curve, or you can write it as individual firm demand curve cannot be traced. Or it can be asked from you that why the individual firm's demand curve cannot be traced. If you ask the question why, it is due to high degree of interdependence, which means that the firms have already decided their demand on their own, right? They have made the policy, and now we cannot see that which buyer wants to buy from which firm. Then another important feature of oligopoly which helps the to restricted entry in the oligopoly, it helps the oligopoly market to maintain its structure. Again, restricted entry we have already done in the monopoly pharma market. The reasons remain the same. Or the causes of oligopoly, or it may be asked that what is the reason that there are few firms in oligopoly. Again the same reasons. First was the law of land, but here there is no law of land. It means that government will not create a oligopoly. If it want to create, it will create the monopoly. Patent right reserved by the various firms. Formation of cartels. Huge capital required. Technical know-how. Control over resources. Okay, so the reasons remain the same as in monopoly. The meaning is same. These reasons will create a oligopoly, and this is the reason why there are few firms in a oligopoly. The question may be in this form: why are there few firms in the oligopoly, or what are the reasons for oligopoly? The same answer you have to write for all the questions. And then the last feature that we have to study is, we have already talked about it, that is no price war. Again, just take an example. Suppose there are say 5 firms which decided that the price of petrol would be 70 per liter. But among them, say firm C reduces the price to rupees 68 per liter. Now what would happen? All the buyers would like to go and buy petrol from here. Take your example, maybe that petrol pump is 2 kilometers away from my home, then also I will go and get the tank full at a single go. So what will happen? Other firms will be forced to reduce their price, otherwise their sales will almost become zero. See now, they is reduced to 68 and he says that I will put it at 65 per liter. Again, other firms also have to reduce it. Why they are able to reduce it? Because they are large firms, not afraid of the losses. They can also go with the losses for certain period of time. But what is happening actually, the whole industry, or you can say the industry as a whole, is losing. It is a loss-loss situation for all. Okay, every firm is losing. So that's why they will never do the price war, and this is known as price war, when one firm is curtailing its price to harm the other firms. Okay, so would that mean that there is no competition in the oligopoly? No, it is not like this. They have other ways of competing. For example, they provide you some additional services. Like at some of the petrol pumps, they might clean the windscreen of your vehicle. They might provide you free air. They might provide you free water, washroom services. Okay, all these additional services are provided. Then timely deliveries in the international market. Timely deliveries, they deliver on time. Then credit, they allow credit to their consumers. Then after sale services. Okay, these are the ways, or maybe more, how the firms can compete with one another, but not with the price. Price they decide on their own. Okay, then next we have to move on the types of oligopoly. See, oligopolies can be divided into different classes. First is perfect and imperfect oligopoly. And second is collusive or non-collusive. Oligopoly. right? Perfect oligopoly means that the firms are supplying the perfect substitutes, absolutely identical to one another, like the petrol pumps. Okay, they give you the similar type of petrol, or you can say exactly the same petrol. Do not get confused between the normal and speed petrol. The petrol, normal petrol, you will get same on the all the pumps, and if it is a speed petrol, you will get same on all the petrol pumps. Imperfect oligopoly is when the firms are supplying closely related or close substitutes. Means the products are not absolutely identical, like the telecom services. Okay, they are different from one another. Collusive oligopoly is when the firms cooperate with one another. Actually, collusive can also be known as a cooperative oligopoly. Means they help the firms openly, each other openly. For example, if there is a shortage of petrol at the petrol pump of HP and an Indian tanker is passing by, so it will give the petrol to the HP pump also, if it is a collusive oligopoly. While in a non-collusive oligopoly, the firms are like rivals. Okay, they will not help each other individually. But remember, it doesn't mean that they can decide different prices. Prices are decided by them mutually, but help is not given to other firms. Like practically in India, you have non-collusive oligopoly for petroleum. So you will never find an HP tanker giving petrol pump to Indian petrol pump. So these are the main characteristics of oligopoly and the types of oligopoly. So now we are over with the forms of market unit. In this unit you have to remember that implications are the most important part, and the topics which we studied like the inelastic and elastic MR and error curves of monopoly. These are very important topics from where the question will be asked. Chalo bhai.